Make
do
it joyful and like lead with confidence because people just they're so happy when you invite them over. Community, the world is on fire, and community, our closest knit people, are the only tangible thing that you can feel, I believe. And I have a really big audience, and I can post links, and I can promote donating, and I can talk about all the atrocity of the world. But the time when I really feel like I've done something is when I've visibly seen the impact in my tight community. And so that is why I think gathering, entertaining, hosting is so important right now.
Welcome to Mind, Body, Spirit, Food. I'm Nicki Sizemore, and in this podcast, we explore how food connects us and sometimes disconnects us to our minds, bodies, spirits, the earth, and our communities. This is a space dedicated to bringing more presence, intention, ease, and joy into the process of feeding ourselves. Let's dive in. Hello, my dears, and welcome back to the show. Today, I am joined by the delightful Dan Pelosi to talk about gathering with confidence, feeding the people you love, and making the holidays simpler and more joyful. You might know Dan from his wildly popular social media feed, Grossy Pelosi, or his best-selling cookbooks, including Let's Eat and new this fall, Let's Party, recipes and menus for celebrating every day. Dan talks about his childhood growing up in an Italian-American family and how cooking for 30 was just a regular Tuesday. And we get into the nuts and bolts of hosting, how to plan a menu that lets you be present, what needs to arrive at the table hot, and spoiler alert, not that much, why appetizers are optional, host and hostess gifts, what makes for a good guest, how to reset your house and your nervous system after your friends leave, and so much more. Dan also describes his now famous holiday cookie party, which is a low-lift way to gather with people you love to share not just recipes, but also stories. And be sure to hop over to the Substack newsletter because I'm sharing his recipe for his pignoli cookies, just 5 ingredients, and they are so delicious. I'm also giving away a copy of his new book, Let's Party, which would make for a wonderful holiday gift. So be sure to hop over to the newsletter to learn more about that. This is such a fun conversation. You're going to fall in love with Dan if you don't love him already. And you're going to walk away with such great tips for bringing more ease and joy into the season ahead, for gathering in community, which truly feels more important than ever. If you enjoy the show, please support it. This is a community-supported enterprise. No ads, just you and I making this happen. You can share the podcast episode, you can rate it, you can leave a comment, or you can become a paid subscriber to the Mind, Body, Spirit, Food newsletter, where just a couple bucks a month, you get access to all of the recipes in the archive, bonus content, discounts on one-on-one sessions, and a whole bunch of other fun perks. And my Mind, Body, Spirit, Food cookbook is now available for pre-order. This book wouldn't have happened without you guys. And so if you're looking for a fun holiday gift for yourself or for a loved one, you might want to consider that. Okay, my friends, without further ado, let's get into the show. Hey, Dan, I'm so excited to talk to you. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm going to start by asking you the first question that I ask all my guests so that those of us out there who might not know you can get to know you through the lens of food. And that is, what is your cultural upbringing and how has that influenced your relationship to food?
Oh, absolutely. My cultural upbringing is in a very sort of stereotypical Italian-American family. There's also a Portuguese-American side to that family as well through my mom, who's a mix of both. So there's a lot of, the usuals, a lot of food, a lot of talking about food, a lot of spending time cooking, a lot of hosting, a lot of entertaining, a lot of gathering, a lot of opinions. And, I think I always talk about the difference between Italian and Italian-American because I really consider them two different things. They're deeply connected, but I feel like they have very different sort of like attitudes, especially towards food. But yeah, call myself sort of an indoor kid. So I spent all my time as a child sort of with my moms and my aunts and my grandparents, just like cooking and hanging out in the kitchen. I did not really have any interest in doing anything else, which is why
Mm.
I can now write recipes and entertaining books and all those great things.
Yeah, I would love for those people who don't know your like whole journey, just to describe how you went. I mean, from a kid who obviously had a passion for food and a family that had a passion for food, but then how did that like jump go from then being a content creator, cookbook writer, recipe developer, all of those things?
Yeah. So, from like up until age 18, I was like sort of always just home immersed in sort of the casual sort of like upbringing where making food for 30 people was no big deal. And then I went to college and all my friends were like, why do you go home every weekend? Like there's so many gatherings and so many parties. And I was like, oh no, it's just like Maria's birthday. Like we're just getting together. Like I can't miss it. Like Patty's going to make her like lasagna, whatever. So, and then I went to Italy for a year. My school had a year-long exchange program. And that was the first time I really was like, oh, I have a kitchen and I have a building or a palazzo full of like students and no one knows how to cook. And we have amazing farmers markets. And so I just sort of became like house mom and just like started cooking for everyone. And I really put into use by myself for the first time all the things I had learned throughout my childhood and my teenage years, which was kind of an incredible thing. And my mom came to visit like, in the spring of that year. And she just was like the proudest I've ever seen her, or at least at that time. She was like, you are absolutely becoming your aunts and your grandparents. And so she was really proud. And then, throughout my adult life, San Francisco, Portland, New York, I've lived in like big cities where most people don't spend a lot of time in their apartments, except for me. On the weekends, I would like hit up my farmers markets, which I really discovered when I lived in Rome with the Campo de Fiori. And then would cook all weekend and invite friends over. So that was just sort of my passion. And I kept it alive, even though I lived in these sort of like metropolitan areas. And then when the pandemic hit, I realized that my very small Instagram following became my outlet for, oh gosh, I have to stay home all day. But like also, if there's a positive for this, I was like raised to stay home all day, cook, and had a very stocked pantry. So I had a design and marketing background. I did that for years professionally. Also went to design school. So I was able to sort of combine the two things and say like, okay, people seem to be interested in like frying an egg, making a sandwich, how to make pasta. I have a marketing and design background. Let me put the two together and just try and make teachable content. Like my job was sort of dying, right? Like, because it was a pandemic. I was home. I didn't have a boyfriend. I had two roommates who were in a couple and they were happy to be fed by me, but they weren't really trying to hang too much. So yeah, so it was sort of that. And then social media just kind of took off and I was like able to really, and in the words of others, help them get through the pandemic with my skill set, which is mostly just staying home and cooking food.
I'm curious because I went through a stage of this myself, being in the food world for so long and having that being like my passion as a kid and then making it into a career. Was there ever, or has there been a time in the last 5 or 6 years where you're like, oh, like, shoot, food, this is becoming hard because food is my passion and it's too much? I don't know if that's a yes or no.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think like I always talk about kind of like the joy that I experience with food is what has driven this whole thing. And there are moments professionally where the joy can diminish. And so I have tried to keep a really strong kind of like eye on that because no one's happy when that happens.
Yeah.
Right? Like my followers aren't happy. My whoever I'm working with professionally is happy. I'm not happy. My boyfriend's not happy. So it is absolutely possible. And I'm truly the luckiest person in the world because I have gotten so many incredible professional opportunities from just what I do normally, right? And it even happens where someone will be like, we want you to do like blah, blah, blah. Give us some ideas. And like in the beginning, I would come up with all the ideas that I was like, I thought I had to like create something bigger and better than just what I am myself.
Yeah.
And I realized that like I had all the ideas. I don't need to stress out. They just want me to be me. So, but oh man, it can get really, really stressful.
I feel that so much. And it's like, I love what you're saying because it's really about the reason people are attracted to your work is because the authentic
Totally.
representation of who you are.
Mhm.
When you feel
Yeah.
depleted, like how do you tap back into that joy? What does that look like for you?
Well, I've discovered that my safe space, my most joyful space is cooking someone else's recipe.
Oh, that's amazing.
Because my sort of like original kind of like, if I had any visibility in the food space, like before I was a food creator, I was friends with all these other food creators from like the Bon Appetit world and like a couple other people. And I just like would always cook their recipes and share them. I was kind of like fangirling, but they were also like my friends. And there's just something now as someone who spends all my days creating my own recipes, testing them. I still find joy in cooking, but all the thought that I normally need to put into recipe development is already there. And I just get to take the ride with whoever else
Yeah.
developed the recipe.
Yeah.
So it's really like, I get so excited around like Thanksgiving or holidays because I've already done all my recipes. So now I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, I'm cooking everyone else's Thanksgiving recipes.
Oh, it's so great. It's so funny too, because I know that feeling in like my joy is then like not using a recipe at all. But then it's like last night I was prepping a pork shoulder and it has like tons of rosemary and orange zest and fennel seeds. And then I'm like, ooh, garlic. Ooh, oh, I should really write this out. I should really write it up. But I'm like, wait, no, don't. Like, just don't. Not everything has to turn into work, right?
Yeah, I tried to do the like casual cooking thing and like obviously I still do, but that's really how I start most of my recipe development is I'm just like,
Yeah.
so now sort of just like someone else's. It's like when I go on vacation with my sister and her husband and their kids, they have the whole thing planned and I don't have to think. And I'm like,
Oh, the best.
how can I not
Yes.
think?
Yes. So I want to get into entertaining because this episode is airing right before Thanksgiving. We are like stepping into the threshold of the holidays. There's a quote from your new book, which I love. And you say, just like riding a bike or learning to fold a fitted sheet, seamlessly weaving the act of gathering and celebrating into your day means you need to be present to appreciate the joy of bringing people together. And you go on from there. But I love this sentence for two reasons. And the first I want to touch upon is this idea of practice, because I'm an introvert and I love like a 6-person dinner party. Obviously, this is like in your blood from what it sounds like. You grew up hosting lots of people. I think people forget that we need to practice these things. And so, like, what are some tips for people who are like, I want to entertain more, but it feels super stressful? Like, what do you think?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I have a whole book. You know, the book is just full of them. And I think like, you know, for me, people whether they're following me on the internet or at my house are like, that was an amazing party. You throw a party 3 nights a week, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's not a party. I'm just like living my life. Right. And that's that thing where like, for me, it's like someone who's like working out at the gym and I'm like, how did you do that move? And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, I just do it. And I'm like, I'm so far away from just doing something naturally at the gym. So we all have our like things. Right. And so I think for me, it's really like there's certain like prep steps you can take, whether it's like keeping your pantry always stocked with the basics, right? So that you're not overwhelmed by like a huge grocery list. You know, you have kind of like 2 shops. Shop your basic pantry items, shop, you know, your specific items. And then there's also like cooking ahead of the party. And this is my biggest key to being present because when I'm cooking, I always say my happiest place is not when I'm entertaining, but it's like cooking for the party by myself. That's
so fun.
It's really joyful because I like to really focus. And I do think that whether you love cooking and you like to focus or you don't love cooking and you like to focus, you do sort of need to focus while you're cooking. And it's really hard to also entertain when that's happening. So in the book, I give you so much to do ahead of time so that when guests arrive, there's like 1 or 2 things to do, right?
I love that.
And so that to me is really important. So I made sure that everyone had that kind of like roadmap. And then I would say my biggest tip, which was really how I wrote this book, because I could have done a million different recipes, but each chapter, there's 16 chapters that are different menus and they're all broken up into like 5 or 6 recipes. And those recipes, some of them come to the table room temperature. Some come to the table cold.
Yes.
Some come to the table screaming hot. You have to have those moments.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be like fresh out of the oven or off the stovetop. So much of what I do as a former marketer is like I write books in response to the questions I get, right? Because like I'm like, I love this. I'm a problem solver. I want to help you. And everyone's like, how do you get all the food to the table hot? And I'm like, you just don't.
You don't.
Like, you don't.
Yeah.
Like, warm bread is nice, but you could bake the bread for 3 days in advance, a month in advance, freeze it, and then put it in the oven for 15 minutes and warm it. Like there's so many ways to do it. So
I love that. Yeah. It's like really thinking about the menu and thinking about, well, and you give this to people who are like, I don't even know how to think about the menu, but that idea of temperature is so important. And I think so often we think that everything has to come to the table hot, and like literally very few things have to come to the table hot, right?
Absolutely.
So another thing that I liked about that quote that I read was this idea of being present, because at least for me, when I'm present, I get out of the loop of perfectionism and performance. And I think so often entertaining, especially with social media and like everything perfect that we see, we can get caught up in the loop of like, it becomes, we're proving ourselves. So who knows what. How do you get out of that yourself? And what are some tips you have for avoiding that business?
Well, despite being a cookbook author and a recipe developer, I never profess to be perfect in anything. And I think that's the starting place. Like if you're expecting perfection, that's like quite frankly the most boring route you can take. I'm also very clear with sort of like what my strengths and weaknesses are. So like I'm not putting together a playlist for the party. Like I know my person who's doing that. I know my person who I'm inviting who's a great conversationalist. I know my friend who loves to do the dishes, because people want to help, but they also like to be seen. So kind of like being able to be like, will you help me do the dishes? Even they're going to. So those kind of things I think are really important. And I also think like a huge thing I talk about in the book is like, you have to just start right now.
Yeah.
Like there's a chapter that's like, you get a picnic blanket and you pack up all your food. I tell you how to pack it up and you invite your friends to a patch of grass, right? Like if your apartment is not suitable. Or I talk about how in the West Village, when I lived there, I really only had a couch, a couple chairs, and a coffee table. So I would serve food in a mug, right?
Yeah.
You can. So I just feel like you just got to go. And that starts the journey to getting to a place where you're like me, who happens to have like sort of this distinct background, but I don't even know I'm hosting when I'm hosting, And that's like not an end goal for everyone, but I do think getting closer to it starts with just starting with where you're at. I also talked about the certain, like you could use your colander as a bread basket. You can serve food off the tray. Like you don't have to have, mix match bowls is great.
I love that. I had a woman on the show who her quote is like, if something is perfect, it's dead. And that line has always like guided me. It's like, you're right. It's plastic. It doesn't exist. I mean, it doesn't have any life to it. And for me, like when I'm feeling overwhelmed with the work, because it isn't in a sense to have people over, it is work. Like you're tidying up, maybe you're cooking, these things can take a time and they can be very therapeutic, but I think there's seasons of our life where that feels more work heavy than therapeutic heavy. And then I just tell people like, just order takeout. You're still building that muscle of hosting and entertaining, but you can take that stuff off the table.
Totally. I mean, my favorite thing too is like with this book, it's like invite your friends over and give everyone a recipe, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm firmly against potlucks because I have way too much indigestion from just eating regular food. I can't imagine mixing all these things that don't go well together. But like the beauty of curating a menu is that the curation is done. You have things that work well together. And then you can send a list and be like, who wants to make what? And then you're kind of like, that is a nice way to do it. And people are doing that all the time with this book. They did it with my first book. So
I love that idea.
But I am so all about like order pizza, make a salad. Like,
yeah. For the holidays, like I'm sure you have Christmas traditions. What are your Christmas traditions with your family? And then are there traditions that you've started, just you and your partner, just for the two of you?
Well, the number one tradition is in the center of the book, which is my holiday cookie party, which I started like 12 years ago. And it's grown and grown and grown. And now it's become people throwing them themselves all over the place. And I sort of have this like very specific way of throwing the party where I just like throw down a giant roll of brown butcher paper, have everyone line up their cookies in really fun little rows. You write your name, you write what you made, and then everyone spends the afternoon eating cookies and telling stories about the recipes they made. And I started doing this in the West Village about 12 years ago because I missed the family cookie tray. In every family that I went to when I was a kid, right? Like everyone was baking cookies. You sort of had this evolving tray. Someone would bring cookies, they'd add them to it. We had tins of cookies all over the place. So I was like, I want to bake a bunch of cookies. So I baked like 8 different kinds of cookies, put them all on a table and invited my friends over. And it was just the loveliest afternoon. And then the next year I was like, okay, I want to invite other people to bring cookies. So now it's like, you either bake homemade cookies or don't bring cookies because it's all about the act of making, telling the story, sharing. You can also bring wine or milk or whatever. And this has grown and grown and grown to now, because I've shared it, it's gone viral over the years on the internet. So now people are throwing their own parties. So in the book, I tell you exactly how I throw it and how you can throw it, which is really great. So that is like my number one of the year tradition.
I'm going to pipe in and just let readers know that in the newsletter this week, we have the Pignoli cookies, your recipe, which are just like my favorite because of the pine nuts and then the sweetness from the almond paste. So good. And so easy. Like there's like a handful of ingredients.
Truly the easiest. The quality of the ingredients is something that I think like can matter. I try not to say that in most recipes, but when you have a cookie which has 4 ingredients, like, you know, pine nuts are not cheap, but it's worth it. You don't have to crust the whole thing in them. You can just do the top if that helps. Almond paste, you could buy at the grocery store. You could also buy it like an Italian specialty store. My mom buys it at Costco, which I highly recommend. They're also, and I think one part of entertaining is people have anxiety about feeding all different kinds of people. So they're naturally, not intentionally, but they're naturally just gluten-free, which is awesome. So that's really helpful. So those are like top of the list in terms of just really nostalgia and tradition.
I love it. And I love the idea of a cookie party because even for me, like I'm not a big cookie baker. That's not where I find my joy, but there are 2 or 3 cookies that I do really enjoy making. And if everyone's bringing something, you don't have to make 12 different cookies. Like everyone gets to participate. And then the story element, I think, is because there is a story. Like even the 2 cookies that I make, one is a vegan turtle situation with date caramel. And it's because my grandma always had turtles out on Christmas.
The best.
There's just every holiday cookie I feel like does have some sort of story.
You know, I think for my specific tradition, the party is not a competition. There is no winner. If you need a winner, just look at whose cookies got eaten first, right? Like, I don't care who wins. I make so many cookies that there's always enough for everyone. So mine never are like visibly gone. But the other thing is it's not a swap. It's not like make 12, everyone takes one. It's like, if you're the kind of person who wants to make 12 cookies, or you're the kind of person who makes 100 cookies, just bring whatever you want.
Doesn't matter.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, if I am so lucky enough to just get you in the kitchen to bake something and bring it to my table, all I ask.
This leads me to my next question. And this can be about not just holiday parties, but any party, but like what makes a good guest?
Oh my gosh. Well, in the book, I asked my friend Juanita Moore, who is a nightclub drag queen in San Francisco, but also an incredible home cook and entertainer. And I talk about her a lot in the book, but I agree with her on some things where like, and this is because my partner is this person, my partner, Gus. He worked as a server for years in restaurants. So he has an incredible instinct to what everyone at the table needs in that moment and is able to anticipate certain graces. So I think that some of the best guests that I've seen are people who have worked in the service industry before, which is something I think everyone should do. Also, I think someone who's a great conversationalist, I mentioned this earlier, but you really want to have someone who can like kind of lead the conversation along, because so much fun around being around a dinner table is really the conversations that can happen. So that's amazing. And then I think, other than that, a good eater is really
yes, that's I love feeding people who love food.
Absolutely. A nice, good eater. That's what let me know by my grandparents that I was a good guest, because I would just eat.
What are your opinions on like host and hostess gifts? Or what do you bring if you're going to somebody's house for a party or a dinner party? What do you bring?
Okay, so I have a really strong opinion that do not bring anything that is going to make the host or hostess do work upon your arrival with the thing you bring. Most hosts or hostesses will either ask you to bring something specifically or, like me, say, I'm good, don't bring anything. Because we are all trying to get through the motions to hosting our party. And so if you come in with like, here's some flowers or here's a cheese board, do you have a whatever, just put it out. Like, no one's doing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what I usually do, the other thing that I have to admit is like, I'm not great at like receiving gifts because I have a very strong opinion about things I like and don't like. And that's good. Like, that's a good thing. So a couple things. Candles. If you have a favorite candle, just buy like 8 of them, grab them on the way out of the house. Candles are awesome because most people love a candle. And also candles are the best re-gift. So like, I'd love to give something to someone that they can re-gift if they don't like it, right? Like, what's better than that, right?
Yeah.
So candles are great. I also think like, you know, like an olive oil is lovely. Like a nice specialty olive oil is great. Everyone's using olive oil. It's always nice to try a new kind. So that's good. I also like, if you have a favorite kitchen tool, like I have a whisk that I'm obsessed with. And I basically tell everyone they have to own it. And so again, because I'm that person, everyone's like, you're crazy. I just have a few whisks at all times and I'll just grab one and bring it.
I love it.
But also like all of those things are products of like my personality and what I love, right? And so instead of trying to anticipate that person's whatever, share something with them that makes your life better. And then it'll hopefully make theirs better. And if not, they'll just re-gift it. Who cares?
Yeah. One of the things you talk about in your book, which I had never thought about before, is what to do after people leave. And I think I like do this, like there's something I have to wipe down the counters and I just have like a mix of vinegar and water. But it never occurred to me that what I'm doing is clearing that space. And you talk about that. So what are your after party rituals?
Well, first, I just want to take a moment to remind you that you can tell people to leave because they're probably waiting for you. There's 2 kinds of people at the end of a party. People that are like, fuck, I just really wish they would tell me to leave. Is it okay to leave? So I'm usually like, thank you so much. This was so lovely. I'm going to bed. Like, goodbye. So most people will be relieved. Other people will be like, fuck no, I'm keeping the party going. But you can't kill their vibe, right? Their vibe is strong. They're going to go somewhere else. They're going to pack up all their friends, go down the street to the bar so that you can do what I love to do. And what you picked up on is like, reclaim your space, right? Like the beauty of entertaining is we're welcoming people into our homes. We're showing them how we live. We're showing them what makes us happy in the effort to make them happy and give them a glimpse into our life. And if your space and your sort of like sanity isn't protected, then partying's not going to be fun for you, right? Like entertaining is not going to be fun for you. If you are changing your house so much that you can't in 15 or 20 minutes do a quick reset. And I'm not saying you have to do the dishes. You don't have to you just pick a few things that you know are going to make you sane. Do those. Like I love to do the dishes in the morning. That's awesome. Cup of coffee, do the dishes, listen to a podcast. Like I know that about myself. So choose your battles, whatever is going to give you this sort of like, I could sleep. And for some people, like my mom, she has to clean the inside and the outside of the house before people
I also like need to settle my energy after being, especially if you're hosting, it's a lot of output. And it's like, what is a little ritual that you can create, even if it is like a cleanup? But I do think these things help us come back to ourselves and help us like tune in and slow down.
Totally. And like, if you're my boyfriend, you're like writing stuff down. Like he's like a journaler. He's a writer. So I do encourage people, like if you're learning about your own entertaining style, take a moment and like do like a highs and lows or just take a few notes from the evening so that next time you host people, you might be like, you know what? Like less appetizers, more dessert or like, you know, whatever, you know, there's no wrong way. And I think my book was really interesting for me to sit down and think about all the things that I do because I just do. Like I literally just do. So it was hard to sit down and be like, what do I actually do?
Yeah.
And so I'm not telling you that you need to run a marathon. I'm just telling you, like, here's really simple things that you can do, you know?
I do want to ask you about appetizers because, like, for me, I love planning menus. I love thinking about the dessert. And the thing that I always like forget about, or the thing that feels maybe like a little bit extra work at the end of it all, is like, oh crap, like what appetizer? Like, what do I give people when they walk in the
Yeah.
door? What are some of your like really easy, low lift nibbles to welcome people?
Well, I have to tell you, the majority of my recipes, there's one recipe that's all about nibbles. And the point of the party is to just nibble. It's not to ever sit and have a real, it's called Dips in the Pool. And it's this sort of like grazing afternoon in between meals party. And with the idea that those nibbles can then become spreads or sauces for other things, it's hard for me to talk about appetizers because one, if you put an appetizer down, I will fill up before I eat. So what I like to do is if I invite you to be at my house at 7:00, we're eating at 7:30. We're not eating at 8:45. Like, that's just how I've always done it. But that said, there are some great appetizers in my pumpkin spice chapter. I have like a cheese ball that's really great for like the pumpkin season. There's also a chapter called Go for the Gold, which is like either tailgating or watching an award show. And that's also like an appetizer spread because it's kind of like everyone's gathered on the couch or whatever. So there's some really simple ones. But I do think, you know, for the snacky things, keep it really light. Like one dip with some veggies is enough. Like don't feed people before you feed people.
I love this. Like permission to like, you don't need an appetizer. Like maybe a little bowl of spiced nuts. Like that can be enough, especially if you're going to be eating.
There's a couple of menus in the book that don't have a dessert, right? Because I like want people to just eat the food I'm cooking for the meal. And then some have a dessert because the meal might be lighter. So you can always pick and choose. The picnic chapter is like, go find an ice cream shop. Like you're outside. Like, you know, like if I'm going to outsource something, sometimes I'll be like, get some cannolis at the bakery. So there's like ways to interweave it, but you don't have to go hard on appetizer, on meal and dessert. Choose your battles.
I think that's a good reminder. Since the holiday season is so busy, and I know that a lot of us are entertaining more, or at least like going to things, and there's just a lot this time of year. What are some ways that you find your grounding and that you nourish yourself, not just necessarily through food, but like what are some things you do to just like bring yourself, you know, that sense of nourishment?
Oh my gosh. Whew. I've been taking a lot of baths lately. I definitely rely on my boyfriend a lot. He has a really good perspective for self-care. So he's always reminding me to just like stop, take a break, meditate, have those moments. Cause I'm like my mom, we just keep going.
Yeah.
And like I said, you know, cooking another person's recipe. We do that a lot during the week just because I'll be recipe developing all day. And then when it comes to dinner, my boyfriend and I will just cook through a new recipe together, which is fun. Yeah. Because we're discovering new things. It's also like I said, I don't know everything. So cooking other people's recipes, I learn a lot.
Absolutely. And even like reading cookbooks to me is such inspiration. It is like, again, that it like stokes that passion that sometimes when it is also your job, that can be hard. And then it's like, wait, no, I just got to take a step back.
You can also accept invites to other people's houses. My sister and I always joke, like whenever someone invites us over to their house for dinner for the first time, we eat before we go. Yeah, you just never know. But.
And then with January around the corner and then the new year, is there anything you're looking forward to in 2026?
I would love to say slowing down, but I don't know how to do that. I bought this house in the country a couple hours north of New York City a couple years ago, and it is just my favorite place in the whole world to be. And we have just the best fireplace ever. And our coffee tables in front of it, and like having friends over doing puzzles, which is like one of my favorite things to do is sit down and do a puzzle. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. We live in the Hudson Valley and we got a wood burning stove a couple of years ago, but it's big. So it looks like a fireplace, but it's changed my relationship to winter because.
Is it an insert like into an old fireplace or does it freestanding?
No, we don't have, it's freestanding. and it heats our house and it's so beautiful. And like, it's funny because we set up the puzzle as well. And I don't do the puzzle, but I love watching the people puzzle.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so fun. Yeah,
Well, Dan, thank you so much. I feel like these are like the best tips. And I feel so inspired and empowered. I think we all start to complicate things in our head this time of year. And actually, it can be so simple, right? Like gather with your friends, gather with your people, light a fire, light some candles, and just make it joyful. Just
make it joyful and like lead with confidence, because people just they're so happy when you invite them over. Community, the world is on fire, and community, our closest knit people, are the only tangible thing that you can feel, I believe. And I have a really big audience, and I can post links, and I can promote donating, and I can talk about all the atrocity of the world. But the time when I really feel like I've done something is when I've visibly seen the impact in my tight community. And so that is why I think gathering, entertaining, hosting is so important right now. So on top of everything else.
I'm going to finish with the last question I ask all my guests. And this is just a fun one. And it's, if it were your last meal on earth in this moment, I was going to hand you a plate of food right now, what would you choose?
Meatballs and spaghetti. But like my meatballs and spaghetti. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Thank you so much for listening. If this work resonates with you in any way, you can support it by leaving a review or comment or sharing it with friends. Also, you can sign up for the newsletter, Mind, Body, Spirit, Food. And by becoming a paid member for just $5 a month, you help fund this entire project. Thank you so much to all of you who are already subscribed, especially to those paid subscribers. This work could not happen without you. I'm Nicki Sizemore, and as always, remember to nourish yourself with intention and love.